We have waiting on the phone.
We don't keep Julie Gunlock waiting.
We never keep Julie Gunlock waiting. Julie, welcome to Cam and Company. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be on.
And thank you for slumming and talking to Cameron and I today.
Yes.
No worries.
All right, so we'll talk about your article in the New York Post in a second. But Julie, there's a story that I read that I thought of you immediately because I know you love stuff like this and drives you crazy too. First of all, it's a story about Airbnb. So you know where we're going with this.
I do not.
Oh, okay. So the thing that drives me crazy, first of all, is the fact that Airbnb is located in the Silicon Valley, which is the mecca of liberals,
Hotbed,
lots of moneyed liberals. I mean, but it's also, we found out last week that San Francisco is trying to pose such a gigantic tax on Airbnb. It's going to make them hard to do their business and make it hard for people to use their service and rent out their houses. And it's amazing to me that the biggest stiflers of new innovation are usually Democrat mayors.
Totally.
It's unreal to me, and I don't know when they'll wake up to this.
Yeah, the cognitive dissonance of the liberals on this issue is so great, and it's not just this. I've actually written on this issue. You've really sort of nailed an issue that I'm really interested in. Is that you have these innovative programs largely built on new technological applications or something.
Which, by the way, are apps like, especially Uber. Uber is like the darling app of liberals.
Yeah,
they can't live without it.
Yeah, and also Uber. Let's not forget, like, many of these liberal governments, these liberal mayors try to drive Uber out of business or out of town, right? Because they're all beholden to these big taxi interests, right? The big money that the taxi unions bring in. But I mean, as a woman, I can't even describe to you how much safer I feel knowing that there's Uber, that no matter where I am, I can. I live in a metropolitan area. I live outside of D.C. I actually have a dinner to go to tomorrow night. It's sort of far away. I'm gonna Uber and then Uber home, and I know. This dinner is kind of in a remote area. I know I can get an Uber to come where I couldn't get a taxi. So. I could call. I could wait 30 minutes. He may or may not show up. So I would think that feminists would really sort of get angry when governments try to shut them down. Yet they are silent, of course. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned with Airbnb, you have these liberal, largely Democrat administrations that are trying to shut this down, and then people in these cities. They get angry at this. I'm like, it's the whole, elections have consequences, right? Like, hey, guys, like, these guys are not friendly to innovation and small businesses and people having economic freedom. They are not friendly to this.
So this is from Reason Magazine. The title is, it's by Eric Boehm or Beam. I'm sorry if I don't, Boehm.
Okay. Yep.
Nashville councilwoman says, deciding who sleeps in your home is a privilege bestowed by government, not a right.
Unbelievable. They're so
Oh my God! Really?
Oh, Stacey, hi. Yeah, it's so weird. That's so weird.
So let me read the first couple sentences and have you react to the actual legislation of it. Tennessee state legislature is considering whether to overrule local ordinances restricting how people can use short-term rentals like those available through Airbnb. As part of that process, state lawmakers on Thursday heard from local officials in cities like Nashville, which requires homeowners to obtain a permit for renting their homes on Airbnb and similar websites. Nashville's regulation also caps short-term rentals at no more than 3% of all homes in a given neighborhood, which is ridiculous. So if 3% of your neighbors are also listing their homes through a room sharing service, you won't be allowed to get a permit even if you meet all the other qualifications the city has set.
It's completely, it's completely insane. I mean, I want to say to these legislators, okay, go back to your history books and read about natural rights. Like, they literally have no concept of what our country was built on. This idea that rights are bestowed by God, not by governments, not by man. It's really disturbing to see how far our democracy has gone, and particularly when you see, these actions at the state level, the most local level, to really harm people, to really take away their ability to make money on their own. And I think these things particularly hit the poor the hardest. If you have an extra room in your house, if you're a woman and you want to stay home and make a little extra money, and we see this kind of stuff all the time. Whether you have this gigantic bill in Congress right now that's going to hammer small cosmetics companies, but guess who's behind it? The large cosmetics companies, right? I mean, this is all the same thing. You always get like big and big together to crush the little guy, and that's what we see with Airbnb. That's what we see with Uber. That's what we see with a lot of these innovative companies.
Julie, how do you answer the people who say, like, in these ritzier neighborhoods where you have these bigger houses and it's very residential, and then 5 or 6 families open up Airbnbs because they want to pay their mortgages, and then the other neighbors are saying, well, Now we've got renters coming in and out, and this is a heavily, owner residential neighborhood. How's that get balanced?
Well, look, I think that there's a really good way to deal with this. Look, Airbnb rules say that you have to live in the house. Now, I understand if you have like someone who owns a house and they own a house out of state and they live in that other house and they just constantly rent their house out. Like, I can understand in a residential area, if you don't want to live by a Motel 6,
Right.
I get certain concerns about this stuff. I mean, if you follow the rules of Airbnb, you are supposed to be a resident in your house and renting out a room. And so there shouldn't be this sort of like in and out, and there shouldn't, you should always be in residence. And I think, look, if you're a neighbor and you have a problem with it, your immediate conversation shouldn't be with the government office in your city. It should be talking to your neighbor. You might actually feel reassured when they tell you, I'm here all the time. I generally, I make sure that I'm comfortable with the people coming in. I might do background checks or whatever. You may feel better. You may not. And maybe you have to take another route. But I find that so often, and we see this in parenting a lot, that the reaction isn't to talk to the parent. It's to immediately call 911 if you see a kid in a car with the windows rolled down. Or, Stacey, you know about all these issues. You follow these issues, too.
You can't leave your kids at home alone at all now.
There just seems to be far less communication among human beings, which leads to these kinds of these rules, this sort of legal action, and I think that's the problem. Again, I'm not unsympathetic to the idea that this might rattle some people to have people in and out of other people's houses. But look, we have to also respect that our neighbors can use their homes however they want, as long as they're staying within certain laws and they're following the rules of Airbnb of Airbnb.
I know you've used Uber a lot, and I just used it today, being in town for this, and it was so convenient. I think one of the issues that people are having, these old businesses, like Dead Tree Media has already been beaten, to a pulp by bloggers and everything.
Right.
And now we're seeing taxi cab services, which the taxi's filthy. The guy who's driving the taxi is filthy. The fare is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
And there's so much about it that just stinks to high heaven. And then you have this Uber driver who, his car may not be, an Escalade, but it's clean and he gets there on time and the fare is really great. And so what we're seeing is these older systems being smashed to pieces by American capitalism.
Right.
And so it's interesting that you now are seeing people who are so used to the old status quo. They're rising up and they're literally bashing their heads against the wall in anger at innovation that improves things for their neighbors or whoever. And so how do we talk about this when we're sitting up and we're talking about how fantastic Uber is, and you got somebody in the room who's a cabbie, they have cabbies for relatives or what have you? I guess the truth is the best answer, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think it's really also important to point out, as I said, the cognitive dissonance of this stuff, that when liberals are elect officials that hammer these kinds of companies that in fact have started, as you mentioned, in the Silicon Valley, a hotbed of liberals, I think it's really important to point out to people that, look, I understand that lack of regulation makes you guys nervous, but this is what creates jobs and new technologies and new products. That's, again, what seems to be missing. And again, I think it goes deeper than that. I think they don't understand the idea of natural law, the idea that humans have certain rights they are born with. They are not given these rights by government. You see these weird comments coming from whether it's Hillary Clinton several years ago saying, it takes a village, to Michelle Obama recently saying, we're going to help form your children. I mean, everybody should be concerned about this. There is growth in government in more ways than just regulating Uber and trying to get Uber out. I mean, they really are trying to become a central part of people's lives. And so I think it's really important that we point out to people that when you do away with technologies like Uber and Airbnb, ultimately it harms people both economically, it harms innovation, it harms sort of the hope and interest in being innovative in this country. I mean, why would you do it? Why would you even do it if you're going to be, if you put all this time and research into something and then you're going to be put out of business a couple years later? So I think commentary like ours, and I think really covering these issues is really important.
So, Julie, as we transition over to your latest New York Post article, I want to just a side note. So, I know you've talked to Cam before about this past. We've talked about it before about this Panera campaign, and a lot of people are talking about the clean food.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and their food is so clean.
food.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I don't know if you've seen this ad yet. Now Subway is talking about how their food is clean, and they
Yeah.
try to get locally sourced
They're
vegetables.
eating clean.
Yeah.
It's Subway. I don't. Does anyone go to Subway for a clean sandwich?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Chipotle that was so clean. And clean people out, clean people way out, right? They clean people out so much they had to sit on the toilet for 7 days.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
that's
they
clean,
were
by the way.
Wow.
They're feeling very clean after eating Chipotle, which is so clean, right? No GMOs and antibiotic free. I'm sorry, I know I'm like losing listeners left and right now.
That's fine.
They're all putting,
You gotta be yourself.
They're all putting away their snacks right now. We'll listen later. But I mean, this is marketing pure and simple, and it is a direct insult to American farmers. I am so tired. I am so tired of hearing this, like, oh, we don't use antibiotics. Oh, we don't do this. Oh, we only source from humane sources, as if farmers in America are all these monsters that enjoy harming animals and
Kicking puppies.
Kicking little piglets and over injecting them with antibiotics and growth hormones. I mean, look, folks, you are not allowed. Farmers are not allowed to send meat that has antibiotics in it. If you treat an animal, that animal has to come off the line, and there has to be a certain amount of time. Just like us. You know how you can't drink when you're on antibiotics.
Yeah.
You give your body a little while. The antibiotics eventually leave your bodies.
Yes.
For instance, a cow that has metastasis, they are taken off the line. They're given antibiotics. It's cured. Then there's a period of time before the animal can go back on the line. They're not putting in the marketplace milk that is filled with antibiotics or meat that has antibiotic residues in it. It is a lie. It is a marketing term, and people are paying premium prices for this stuff because they think they're getting more nutritious food or better food. And what I hate is I don't care about my wealthy Whole Foods shopping mom that I see at school. I care about the woman who's like desperately trying to pinch enough pennies to get her kids a pair of shoes for the fourth, sports thing he's in. I mean, life is tough for these folks, and they shouldn't be told that one food product is superior to another when the scientific evidence says that that's not true.
Yeah.
I'm a little passionate on this.
And we love it.
I love it.
That's why I brought it up, because I knew I'd get the passion.
You're setting people free, Julie. I don't know if you know that or not, but there are plenty of people out there who are looking on Facebook and thinking, I'm not eating clean. What kind of a mother am I? And when they hear this, they're going to say, whoa. So all of the food that's actually, from the ground, once it's washed, it's clean. So we can go ahead and just eat it. None of it's full of antibiotics.
That's right. And there's just so much hard. It's just hard on moms. Stacey, I think you get it. Like me, we both have young kids. We have these jobs. We try to be present in our kids' lives. We get home and like the abuse. I sometimes I will put a frozen pizza in the oven, and I'll take a picture of it, and you post it on Facebook just to see what the reaction is. Or take McDonald's to a public park and just see the stink eye you get. I mean, look, I think we all have to be reasonable and kind to one another and know that sometimes you have to take a shortcut, and your children are not actually going to die.
We ate it.
Yes.
Did we not eat the McDonald's?
Now you have to
in styrofoam containers too.
We warmed it up too. Yeah.
Now Stacey and I are friends on Facebook. I know she's extremely healthy. She eats really healthy. She cooks a lot. I do too. And so I think, yes, I try to do my best most of the time, but life is life. And so you got to stop.
And even with all of that, I still have pounds to lose. You know what I mean? My metabolism is shot, but I don't think it's the food that I'm eating. It's a combination of things.
Yeah, well, look, weight, we know weight weight issues are very complicated. I too struggle. It's a complicated issue. And when you have a food person or a mommy blogger or some woman saying it's all because of X or Y or Z, it doesn't really help anybody.
Stacey.
It doesn't further that
Julie,
conversation.
you don't eat clean.
I know.
All right, so to get to your post in the Post, you wrote, the headline is the silliest teen rebels ever. So you talk about this article in New York Magazine. And first of all, this is like the trifecta of total annoying people.
Oh, totally.
Teenagers, SJWs, and foodies.
Whoa.
I mean, that's like, it really is. You can't, it's hard to find three more people. Maybe if you added vegans.
You can't punish yourself any more than that. Oh, no, you're right. Vegans.
Honestly, it's literally it's the height of being sanctimonious.
So what happened?
So basically, some kids were okay. So they did a study. There's a study for everything. They did a study on these kids, and they found that that kids are actually becoming like social justice warriors about food, that they want the food to be, humanely sourced and all this baloney. They got all the catchphrases and the terminology of the social justice, and they apply it to food so that everything has to be, from Whole Foods and organic and cage-free and all this stuff. And they, in their minds, think that they're being rebellious. And so, me, a kid of the 80s, my first line was about the Beastie Boys, right? Like, what has happened? And I said in my piece, it almost makes me hope I raise a petty thief or a recreational drug user. I'm kidding, of course, but, it's like, at least they'd be interesting. My God. I mean, when did kids become so boring? Okay, boring. This is rebellion. Like, what's in my organic salad? I don't know what's happening in this country.
What is it about, I go through the supermarket and I see cage-free eggs. What, do they taste any different?
No, they don't taste.
They taste less like a cage?
No, well,
look,
yeah.
there is some serious debate on this issue, and honestly, I bet I have like 5 seconds, so I can't get into it.
No, go ahead. You get time.
Okay, well, look, there's some concern about should they generally in a hen house. The chickens the laying hens are put in cages, okay, and they basically spend their life there, and they lay eggs, and it's this whole sort of contraption where the eggs are caught.
They get bumblefoot.
There are
they get
cases
sick.
where too many chickens are put in smaller cages, and there have been cases. I'm not going to deny that they're like, oh, everyone's perfect. However, so there's been this push for cage-free eggs, which is the animals are allowed to wander a little bit more. They have a small wandering space. Some of them are actually even another category are pasture chickens, where they're actually allowed to go out on grass. So there's all these different variations. Now, there is some debate with it. There's a fantastic article, I think, in Wired about, is this actually more humane? Look, chickens are not nice animals. Okay, I don't want to get any hate mail here from the chicken lover, like that crazy woman who went in that restaurant talking about Snowflake the chicken, right? So I don't want to get any hate mail here, but I'm just saying, there is some questions about, is this actually the humane way to do it? I mean, if animals are in cages, is this automatically a terrible thing? And so there is some healthy debate out there on that issue. But what that has become, though, is another cage-free egg has become another marketing term,
right?
Where they put that on the egg carton. It might just be that they have a slightly larger space. They're not really out. It's not some idyllic, scene on, Ronald McDonald's farm, right, or whatever. It's just that they have a slightly less confined space, and yet people will pay premium price for this. So again, it's a bit of a marketing term, and there is some debate as to whether it really is humane.
I saw on Ronald McDonald's farm, the chickens are shaped like nuggets,
Yeah.
and they walk around in nugget
And you know what,
shapes.
Julie, if you really want cage-free, you have to go to your neighbor who has a chicken coop,
You can
and their chickens are roaming around, and they're eating worms and other different bugs, and that makes their eggs taste different. But for the ones that are in the grocery store, you can pretty much be assured that what she's saying
and they're
is
like $7 a dozen.
Look,
again, twice as much.
Yeah, and again, look, this is an affordable source of protein and healthy fats for kids, and you're going to tell moms that they're horrible unless they're spending $7 for a dozen. I mean, I have 3 boys. We eat eggs all the time because it's so cheap. I can't afford that. I just can't do it.
And Julie, I was going to tell these guys, my sister raises chickens.
Yeah.
And they have them, and they get to wander around the little place they have. Well, you know what happens? You want to talk about what's humane. When they let the chickens out, the foxes come at night, and they come and get the chickens.
The raccoons go after them at night, too.
Yeah, they come and find a little pile of feathers. So
Yeah,
is that more humane?
Yeah, Tam and I have talked about that. And look, I just think that we've lost sight a little bit. We live in an outrage age, but we also live in the age of everyone's an expert, right? Everyone's a farmer. Like,
Hey, they read it on Twitter. You're an expert.
Do I know anything about raising chickens? Cam's wife knows a lot about that because she actually raises chickens.
Yep.
So I think we need to sort of suspend judgment on farmers a little bit. Realize that most of these issues are more complicated, and not sort of pass judgment so quickly, and certainly don't give in to all those food labels.
All right, before we let you go, Julie, at @JGunlock on Twitter, and you write all over the place. People can see your articles there. Talk about the relatively new podcast that you do with Cam.
I'm so so excited about this. It's called the Bespoke Parenting Hour. And, bespoke is usually something that's associated with tailor-made clothing. But when Cam and I talk about these issues, we think about, what we're so tired of. And Stacy writes about this too, is like people telling you how to parent, right? It's like off the rack parenting now, right? You just have, you go in and you're like, okay, I'll take a size 12 and like, this is but you only have like 10 sizes to choose from and 10 styles, right? No, I want to create my own parenting style, very much a tailor-made parenting style where I free range on certain things. Other things I tend to hover. Other things I say, I'm going to take a shortcut. This is my strategy based on my children and my own temperament and personality. That's the only way to parent nowadays. Bespoke parenting, not parenting according to some expert and some authority and some government official.
You know what's so wonderful about that whole idea of your podcast with Cam and the bespoke parenting, the customization? I meet so many kids. I mean, not just through my kids, but through things that we do. And the most interesting, fascinating children, when you talk to their parents, the parents are homeschooling, but they did public school and they did private school. And when you talk to them, they're doing whatever they feel
works.
like their kid needs for that set of years. They're doing that. And then when that need runs out and they need something else, they do something else. And the ones that I find are the most annoying, their kids are just, they're literally scratching their nails across my skin. I'm thinking to myself, something bad's about to happen. Dial 911. Let's preempt this thing. Those are the parents who they're lecturing me instantly.
Oh, of course.
I can't believe you're doing so-and-so. I read such and such, and I'm thinking, you don't even know my kids. You've never even seen them. So
I can't imagine you suffering lecturers gladly.
Exactly right.
It only goes on for a couple seconds before I say back off.
I got to tell you, just listening to Stacey has the most pleasing, beautiful voice. I have a cold, so I sound like shrill and crazy.
You sound
and
fantastic.
I swear, the Bespoke Parenting Hour, I usually sound better. But I have a terrible cold. I know that just listening to this, everyone's probably like, that's a podcast I'm not going to listen to.
No. I'm sure it's fantastic.
But Stacey, you're absolutely right. It's that, you've got these sanctimommies out there that are so eager to tell you their opinion about your children. It's astonishing to me.
It is.
Yep.
And their kids are often just awful also.
Yeah, they are.
I like the word sanctimommy.
Yeah, great word, isn't it?
Mommy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That mom you don't want to be
All
friends
right,
with.
rest up your voice, Julie. Thank you
Julie,
very much.
good luck.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Julie.
Thanks
Great to talk to you.
It was great talking to you. Great to be on. Thanks, guys.
All right,
And
thank
Stacey.
Bye.